I'm just doing some broad strokes here tonight, but I thought we'd talk about um, marriage because once again, this could be wildly different depending on the culture people come from. I usually start by asking people to define what marriage is for me. And okay, let's do that. What's marriage? Can anyone give me a universal definition of marriage? One that applies across time, across cultures, across different types of marriages. And that's the answer. Oh, go ahead. I was going to say that's the answer anthropologists came up with. They couldn't define it because it was too, there were too many variations on the theme.
Yeah.
And we're not done yet, right? There's people petitioning to marry their pet or a tree or whatever. Who knows where we'll go as a society before we're done. All right, so back to my slide. So culture defines marriage and determines number and type of spouses. And it also assigns roles in marriage. Okay, so that is a lot that culture has given us. So here's some basic terms. Monogamy, of course, not open monogamy or whatever Gary was talking about or whoever that was. This is you're married to one person.
Yeah, it was non-monogamy, so the opposite of being married to one person. The APA is trying to make that an identity too, not just
a well, it should be very popular. I would think. Group marriage, this is where you would actually have a group of people be married, men and women in a group, and they're all like co-spouses together. Polygamy is like the umbrella term for multiple spouses, but it gets even more specific. So polygyny is a man with multiple wives, and polyandry is a woman with multiple husbands. I love language, how specific it gets. And this one I found so interesting. Serial polygamy is actually the leading type of marriage in America. Why is that?
What does that mean in sequence? Multiple spouses in sequence.
You get divorced and you marry somebody else, and you get divorced and you marry somebody else.
Yeah. So they're not having multiple spouses simultaneously, but in sequence. Thank you, Lorelai. And that is most Americans' model. Isn't that interesting? Serial polygamy. It's kind of got a ring to it. I've never heard anyone introduce me as a serial polygamist before yet. And I've never called anyone that, but it probably wouldn't be appropriate.
Isn't that serial monogamy?
You could call it that too, but at least in the literature, it's called serial polygamy because you do have multiple spouses over your lifetime.
Yeah, but doesn't polygamy indicate that you have multiple spouses simultaneously?
Regular polygamy. When you add the serial to it, that means in the sequence.
There are some conservative Christians that if you talk to them about the concept of divorce, they firmly believe that divorce is only approved under a couple of circumstances, and that if you get divorced, you are not free to marry again because God will see you two as married for the rest of your lives. So if you were to marry anybody else, you would be a polygamist because you are still married to your first spouse.
Or they wouldn't consider the second marriage legitimate, or there could be a lot of variations on the theme.
True.
Yeah. I didn't even think about it from a fundamentalist perspective. That's so interesting. I didn't make up the definition, Walter, but I see your point. But I think serial monogamy would be equally as fair to describe what's going on. But anyways.
I'm sorry, going back to the marriage, bigamy, right? Bigamy is when you're married to two people at the same time. Polygamy is when you have more people that you're married to at the same time, right?
Yes.
So poly is multiple. That's where it probably comes from. But yeah, I get it. I'm sorry, I'm talking to myself.
No, that's good. I should have thrown that term in there too. But yeah, very good. So we couldn't do a universal definition of marriage, but can we at least do a biblical one?
Oh yeah.
Please share.
Of course, Aunt Gertrude speaks on this. Let's see. So, like, I guess I'm just trying to make fun of myself and like clear the air. No, but let's see. So, like, biblical, account of marriage. Like it would be between, like, the bonding under like a covenant bonding of one man and one woman for life.
One or more?
What?
You said one, but wouldn't the biblical be one or more?
Uh,
I asked biblical, not American Christianity.
oh, okay. Ooh, okay.
A lot of people confuse the two.
I know Mormons, they do multiple marriage with the females. Yeah.
Yeah. And they consider themselves Christian?
Yeah, I think they are Christian, the branch of Christianity, but they're Mormons. But I don't think they do that in United States.
They do.
Really? Because I have a friend, and actually I asked her about this particular thing, and she said, no, we don't do that anymore, especially in the United States. Maybe in LA.
Not her branch of Mormonism, which is the mainstream.
I see.
But there are fundamentalist Mormons who believe the Mormon church compromised to get Utah to be a state, they had to let go of polygamy. And so some Mormons believed that the church was wrong in doing that, and they are holding to the traditional teachings, even though the church at large publicly denounces polygamy today. They would be called fundamentalist Mormons. Maybe Jack Mormons is another term I've heard in the past, but I'm not sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. So biblical, and the reason I bring that up, it's one of the great things about anthropology is after you start studying it for a while, it's almost like a mirror appears before you. And I've had some great classes where I've had a student all of a sudden just realize they're like, I have culture, because we often think about other people like it's exotic and these people have culture and we're just normal, right? These other people have all these different things, but we forget that we have an accent too. We have certain interesting cultural characteristics or traits. And one of the things that begins to happen as you look at marriage or roles or death or all these different parts of the human experience in other cultures, all of a sudden it's like a mirror comes up for you and you start to see your own culture and all these different ways it's been affecting you, even your identity and your values, your judgments, your ideals, what you're shooting for. It's so powerful.